If we take a look at different, long-running video game franchises, there are countless stories that tell of great success, with some of the franchises that started all the way back in the mid-90s still going strong to this day. And then, sadly, there are even more stories of eager developers that tried their absolute hardest to craft an innovative, ambitious game, which then ended up utterly and completely failing. As always, there are many shades of grey between the two extremes that are success and failure, but it's safe to say that there haven't been many franchises who have explored both ends of the spectrum as much as Silent Hill has. Originally created by a team of individuals who were all rather unsuccessful at previous projects they worked at, the first Silent Hill became an incredible success and is often seen as the counterpart to the also fantastic Resident Evil series. Though they both are in the same genre of survival horror, Silent Hill's approach towards it was a much more subtle one, where scares and horror were transmitted in a much more psychological and symbolic way rather than the direct approach that Resident Evil took. And that different approach evidently worked out extremely well for Team Silent, as there are hundreds of thousands of people to this day that still reminisce about how no other form of media, let alone other video games, were able to stir up quite the same feeling of terror and dread in them. While we won't really go into the spookiness of the games themselves, we will talk about an equally frightening topic: the rarest achievement out of all of the Silent Hill series. And to determine which title of the Silent Hill series will reward you with it, we'll first look at the respective rarest achievement of each individual title and then rank them in order from most to least commonly unlocked. That way, we'll be left with only the absolutely rarest achievement in the entire Silent Hill franchise. So, with all that said, let's make our way through the thick and unnerving fog of Silent Hill and find out which ultra rare achievement is hiding from us deep within. We're starting our list with Silent Hill Book of Memories. If you're a rather casual Silent Hill fan like me, it's likely that you've never even heard of this title, as it's not only an exclusive PlayStation Vita title, but also a rather rare game, proven by the fact that a new copy of it will cost you around $150 nowadays. That's not all though, as the game itself is really unusual as well, especially considering that it's a Silent Hill title. Rather than survival horror, Silent Hill Book of Memories is actually a dungeon crawler, not unlike Diablo or Path of Exile, and the story also is quite special. Our protagonist is given a book by a mailman for her birthday, which inexplicably contains all the events that happened so far in her life. Not only that, but we quickly discover that rewriting certain parts of the Book of Memories that we were given affects the past and changes it until the written story in the Book of Memories becomes reality. The game takes place over 7 different dungeons that the protagonist visits in her dreams every night after rewriting her memories during the day, with each of the 7 different dungeons representing a person whose fate had been altered considerably by the protagonist's rewriting of history. Achievement-wise, the rarest one you can possibly earn in Silent Hill Book of Memories is called Storyteller, with a completion rate of 5.4%. To unlock Storyteller, you once again have to concern yourself with the different endings of the game, and unlock all 6 of them. Unlocking the endings works very differently here than it did in other titles, due to the massive changes in gameplay. Rather than killing a certain amount of enemies with specific weapons, you'll instead have to collect different notes in Book of Memories. Each of the 7 different dungeons you need to beat contains a total of 10 notes that can be found. While that sounds simple enough, it's actually an incredible pain to get the required notes, because on top of everything, there's a very odd karma system in place that decides which kind of notes you find, which in turn will define the ending you get. But to explain you the basics first, there are different kind of notes which you can find or earn throughout the levels. There are challenge notes, which are tied to unique challenges you need to fulfill in the different dungeons, such as fully exploring them or using specific weapons to kill monsters. World notes, which in turn are shaped by which challenges you fulfill or fail, and will either turn light or red colored depending on the challenges you do or do not do. And finally, there are boss notes. Boss notes themselves are yet again influenced by the world notes and will ultimately decide the ending you get. So to summarize, challenge notes influence world notes that in turn influence boss notes, which are what decides the ending you get. To give you an example, if 5 out of your 6 total boss notes are red colored, you unlock the Pure Blood ending, which depicts your protagonist as an extremely selfish and paranoid person who becomes mentally unstable towards the end of his story. If you instead get the Pure Light ending by collecting 5 light colored boss notes, you will see your protagonist use the power of the book to save the life of a terminally ill girl and instead sacrifice yourself so she can live on. I know it's a terribly complicated system, and on top of that, there's very limited information on the topic out there, but I honestly did my absolute best to roughly summarize the note mechanics. If you want to know more about it, I will link the article that I personally found the most helpful down in the description. But anyway, as you can imagine by now, getting all the 6 different endings in Book of Memories will require you to strategically fail or fulfill challenges over and over again in different dungeons, making you replay the game in its different areas at least a couple of times. And while I do think that the confusion around the note system is the real deal breaker for most achievement hunters here, the grind that is connected with it certainly doesn't make this any easier. All of the factors that I just mentioned considered, it's very surprising to me that the completion rate for this title is still this high, as the conditions to unlock it are extremely unappealing. On top of that, considering that just getting a physical copy of the game itself is extremely tough nowadays and will cost you a small fortune, I think it's safe to say that Storyteller is one hell of an achievement to have in your collection, no matter its actual completion rate. So props to all of you who actually managed to unlock it, and best of luck to the rest that is crazy enough to still try and do so. Coming in at rank 3, we have Silent Hill 3, the title that features Heather Mason as a protagonist. Heather is the adoptive daughter of Harry Mason, the protagonist from Silent Hill 1. The game kicks off with Heather having a horrible nightmare about being stuck in an abandoned amusement park. As if that wasn't creepy enough already, there are dead pink bunnies lying around in every corner. Besides the dead rabbits, there are also some other cool attractions in this amusement park, such as mummified dogs and extremely weirdly shaped creatures that chase Heather around. She eventually climbs onto the rails of a roller coaster to flee from her attackers, only to then be run over by the ride itself. And you thought your fever dreams were bad. Eventually, Heather wakes up and we find out that she fell asleep in a restaurant that's located inside a mall. Though we just awoke from a nightmare, reality turns out to not be that different from the creepy amusement park, as she soon runs into a monster while trying to exit the mall and barely survives the encounter. Things start to completely spiral out of control from then on, as we discover that the mall is riddled with monsters, a weird cultist called Claudia.
I am Claudia. So what?
And a middle-aged creep who keeps stalking us and claims to be a detective. While Heather does make it out of the mall and eventually gets home, things are sadly far from over for her. After finding out that her father was brutally murdered by Claudia, Heather ventures to Silent Hill to take revenge. It's safe to say that things get even more weird from here on out, as we meet more creepy characters, solve headache-inducing puzzles, and eventually find out that Heather carries an entity inside her, which Claudia refers to as God. The game ends with a standoff between the two women, where Heather pukes out a fetus, which Claudia then picks up and eats before she transforms into a horrible monster. And yes, I'm fully aware that whatever I say after sharing this information won't make the situation any less awkward and uncomfortable, so let's just move on. The original Silent Hill 3 is part of the quadrilogy made by Team Silent and has become a very beloved entry over the years. The HD remaster that we have to look at today, due to it being the only version of the game that has implemented achievements, is sadly another story, but more on that later. Achievement-wise, Silent Hill 3's rarest one is called Coolest Dad Ever and sits at a completion rate of only 5.3%, only 0.1% more rare than the one in Book of Memories. To pop Coolest Dad Ever, you will have to beat the game in a specific way, which in turn rewards you with the very unique UFO ending.
Listen, something crazy is going on.
Cheryl, you're back! What happened?
To get this amazing ending, there are a few conditions that need to be met. First of all, you'll have to unlock an attack called the Heather Beam, which grants Heather the power to shoot laser beams out of her eyes. To unlock the beams, the game demands that you kill a total of 333 monsters across all your playthroughs. And that's where things start getting annoying. You see, Silent Hill 3 is actually quite stingy when it comes to throwing enemies at you, proven by the fact that even if you gun down every single monster you meet, a single playthrough will never be enough to get the required 333 kills, as there are simply not enough monsters you can take out in one run. That means that you'll have to do at the very least 2 playthroughs on normal difficulty, where you take out every single monster to get the required kills. After those conditions are met, you'll finally unlock the Heather Beam, and will now have to do a third playthrough where you use the laser beams to kill at least 30 monsters before getting to Heather's apartment. After that, you can finally take a break, as all that stands between you and the Coolest Dad Ever achievement now is finishing the game. So while the 4th rank on our list isn't necessarily difficult, it is definitely grindy and requires lots of patience. If you manage to endure the grind, you'll be rewarded with a very unique ending, and on top of that will also earn the rarest achievement in all of Silent Hill 3. Silent Hill Downpour takes the second spot on this list. This entry follows the story of a male protagonist called Murphy Pendleton, who has been arrested for stealing a police car. While he was incarcerated, Murphy brutally murdered another inmate and consequently gets transferred to a higher security prison. During the bus ride to the new prison, an accident occurs and the bus filled with inmates falls down the side of the road. Inexplicably, Murphy wakes up alone without any shackles or handcuffs and logically decides to get the hell out of the situation. And though our protagonist just got extremely lucky and experienced what must be the dream of every prisoner, our protagonist unfortunately wandered right into Silent Hill. We're once again faced with many different monsters, odd humans, lots of fog, and very confusing puzzles. Silent Hill Downpour's gameplay features lots of exploring and interaction with the environment, as at certain points you will have to pull down fire escapes with hooks or break boarded up doors so you're able to continue your journey. Another feature we haven't seen before in previous entries is the ability to make moral choices at different times in the game. For instance, right here you can choose to save a police officer that has been nothing but a pain in your butt ever since you first started the game, or you can decide to simply let her fall to her death. There are multiple such moral choices you're confronted with, and all of them decide what kind of person your character eventually turns into. As for the rarest achievement in all of Silent Hill Downpour, it's called Good Behavior and has a completion rate of just 3.8%, making it the first ultra rare achievement on this list. To earn Good Behavior, you have to beat the entire game without killing a single monster. Though it sounds relatively easy to just ignore the nightmarish monsters of Silent Hill, it's truly tough to actually just walk past the monsters when they're chasing after you and attack you. Especially since the game decides to lock you into specific areas with those creatures sometimes. The silver lining here is that despite not being allowed to actually kill the monsters you meet, shooting or beating the crap out of them until they're knocked out is completely fine. So while you can't permanently get rid of them, you can at least ensure that they stop bothering you for a while. Compared to the previous entry we talked about, the second rarest achievement seems like like an absolute cakewalk. So if Silent Hill Downpour is part of your collection and you want to call yourself the proud owner of the ultra rare good behavior achievement, all it takes is making sure that you're extra gentle with the horrifying creatures you encounter as you make your way through Silent Hill. Before we get to rank 1, there's one more Silent Hill game which I sadly couldn't properly rank but would still like to at least talk about. Silent Hill Homecoming. Homecoming is a story about a young man who is returning to his hometown after being discharged from the military due to combat related injuries. Rather than throwing him a party, the people of the town have seemingly all gone missing without any explanation whatsoever. And there's also a strangely thick fog laying over the entire city. Once he arrives at his house, Alex is in for yet another nasty surprise, as his mother is in a near catatonic state and his father and little brother have disappeared without a trace. Alex embarks on a journey to rescue his little brother and consequently gets involved in the horrors that haunt his hometown. Gameplay wise, the most unique innovation to this part of the Silent Hill series was the ability to choose your character's responses when talking to different characters. Other than before, our protagonist is also much different than the ones we're used to. Rather than a teenage girl or an everyman that you were playing as in the previous parts, Alex is a trained soldier, and this is definitely reflected on when it comes to his combat abilities. He can mix heavy and light attacks when using melee weapons and therefore put together entire combos, dodge enemy attacks and counter them, and our former soldier can even use specific finishers to deliver the killing blow on his enemies after weakening them. But let's talk about the elephant in the room, the achievements. While Silent Hill Homecoming did release on PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360, only the 360 version would add achievements for the game. Not only that, but due to the fact that rarity and completion rate for achievements only ever got considered after the release of the Xbox One, we sadly don't have any reliable source to figure out the actual completion rate of the different achievements in Homecoming, therefore making it impossible to actually rank for this list. According to the website True Achievements, the least completed achievement in Silent Hill Homecoming is called Nursery Rhymes, and the diamond symbol you see right here is an indicator that tells us that the achievement has been completed by less than 10% of all players and was therefore rated rare by Microsoft. That is sadly all the information we really have. As for the conditions that have to be met to unlock it, Nursery Rhymes asks you to collect every single one of the children's drawings, which means you need to keep an eye out for 18 unique collectibles. While the drawings are pretty well hidden, there's good guides out there which point to their exact location, and none of them are difficulty or playthrough specific, meaning that as you play through the story, you can simultaneously sack this achievement. And while we don't have the exact completion rate and only know that it's below 10%, I think it's safe to assume that due to its uncomplicated nature, it would be the easiest one to earn in all of Silent Hill. If you're an Xbox player, own Homecoming, and want to earn a very simple and rare achievement, all you have to do is keep an eye out for the different drawings that are hidden throughout the game, and Nursery Rhymes will be yours. Silent Hill 2 is the one title out of all the Silent Hill games that holds the absolutely rarest achievement you can possibly earn. It puts you in charge of James Sunderland, who is intentionally traveling to the town of Silent Hill. The reason for his journey is a letter he received written and signed by his wife, which should theoretically be impossible as she died to a chronic illness many years ago. He does not find his wife, but instead someone that looks just like her and shares an almost identical name, but could not be more different personality-wise. Other than Maria, you meet many different characters on your journey, but in true Silent Hill fashion, there's always something off about them. Next to the really weird people you come across, there's also tons of different monsters, most notably the Pyramid Head, which had become an icon of the series and is one of the most horrifying antagonists in the entire franchise. Silent Hill 2 is arguably the title in the series that stands out the most, doing a fantastic job of connecting its unsettling environment to a story that is hauntingly honest in its confrontation with themes such as guilt, sexual frustration, and trauma. If you haven't played Silent Hill 2 yet, it is highly recommendable, and you'll find many people that are still as intrigued with the game nowadays as they were when it first came out 21 years ago. And here's where we have to talk about a topic that is sadly rather unfortunate. If you do want to earn the rarest achievement in all of the Silent Hill series, you will have to play the Silent Hill 2 HD Remaster, as it is the only version of the game that includes achievements. The problem here is that the remaster is arguably much worse than the original game. And while it didn't impact Silent Hill 3 all that much, Silent Hill 2 really suffered from the changes they made when remastering the title. To give you a few examples, the HD remaster looked much darker than the original. The newly done voiceover sounded extremely different from the one in the PS2 version.
Anyway, I'm glad you're alive.
Anyway? What do you mean, anyway? You don't sound very happy to see me.
Anyway, I'm glad you're alive.
Anyway? What do you mean, anyway? You don't sound very happy to see me.
And the fog, an extremely important element in Silent Hill 2, had changed almost entirely as well. Many fans were understandably very disappointed with the remaster of Silent Hill 2 and 3, so it's entirely up to you how you want to experience the game for the first time, implying of course that you've never played the original. Whichever choice you make, the rarest achievement in all of the Silent Hill franchise can only be found in the very Silent Hill 2 HD remaster. The crazy rare Who Needs a Gun achievement comes in at a completion rate of just 1.2%. Who Needs a Gun requires you to unlock the green hyper spray. The hyper spray is a weapon that that has multiple different tiers. The first time you find it, the color of the spray will be white and do rather minimal damage to monsters. The goal here is to unlock the green spray, which basically insta-kills even very tough enemies. To unlock the green colored spray, a lot of different and very specific conditions must be met, which is definitely why this achievement is so rare. All in all, you need a 10-star ranking when beating the game, and your rank is decided by a lot of different factors. For instance, you need to beat the game on hard difficulty both in action and puzzles, can only save twice, need to beat the game in under 3 hours, collect at least 150 items despite the time limit, shoot 75 enemies to death and use melee weapons to take out another 75, and then there's even a limit to how much damage you can receive. If you think that sounds bad, I didn't even mention all the requirements yet, as you also have to do a speedrun through a specific and very annoying part of the game, and are not allowed to use very strong weapons like the chainsaw. It is insane how well you must play to earn the 10-star ranking. Not only must you know the game by heart and know exactly which paths to take to optimize your time, you must also swiftly solve puzzles and retrieve a ton of items, find the time to kill 150 enemies in different ways and keep track of your kill count while doing so. And did I mention that it's also required to unlock all the different endings? Honestly, the green hyperspray is a fantastic weapon, but it definitely forces you to become as efficient as possible, so you even have a chance to earn the 10-star ranking. People who have been through this nightmare already and did unlock the Who Needs a Gun achievement recommend that you use the necessary playthroughs to unlock all the endings as practice to prepare for your 10-star run. And they also recommend that you manually keep track of the enemies you kill with guns or by melee combat. So friends, if you do own the HD collection and are in the mood to spend dozens of hours in the foggy town of Silent Hill, this is the perfect achievement for you. Remember that all the struggle will be very well worth it, as fulfilling the insane requirements will earn you the ultra rare Who Needs a Gun achievement, and with that, the single rarest achievement in all of the Silent Hill games and unlimited bragging rights. I can only wish you the best of luck and inhuman patience if you're daring enough to take this achievement on.
I was weak. That's why I needed you. Needed someone to punish me for my sins. But that's all over now.
So friends, we've once again made it to the end of the video, and I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for spending your precious time by watching my content. If you have any feedback, negative or positive, please let me know about it in the comments. I would appreciate it a ton if you'd leave a like and a subscription if you enjoyed the video. And if you have any idea for a video game series I should cover next in this format, feel free to let me know. We've already covered quite some different video game franchises, such as Devil May Cry, Resident Evil, Uncharted and more, which you can check out in the playlist right here. Once again, thank you so much for watching, be well and see you in the next video.